Beneath the thick, icy crust of Europa, Jupiter's frozen moon, the drilling team worked in tense silence. The Dauntless Horizon, a deep space exploration ship, hovered silently above the excavation site as the ice drill hummed and cracked open the ancient layers. Dr. Elora Miles stood at the edge of the control platform, eyes fixed on the screens as her breath fogged inside her helmet. A xenoarchaeologist with over 2 decades of experience, she had never seen anything like this. Hours earlier, the team had picked up strange energy signals, pulsing from deep beneath the surface, non-natural and rhythmic, like a beacon. Now, they were only meters away from the source. The moment the final layer gave way, a low vibration rolled through the ice, followed by an eerie silence. Then, slowly, it came into view, a tall black monolith, smooth and glowing faintly with bluish veins of energy. The structure was buried at an angle, as if it had fallen and then frozen in time. "It's not a rock," Elara whispered over the comms. "It's something built." The crew approached with scanning equipment, but every signal bounced back, distorted, unreadable. The surface looked untouched by time, no corrosion, no signs of wear, nothing. Captain Thorne, tall and sharp-eyed, joined Elara with his hand resting on his sidearm, more out of habit than fear. "Is it alien?" he asked. Elara shook her head slowly. "No, I don't think so." What puzzled her more than the structure's existence was the faint pattern she noticed on its base. She brushed away frost with her gloved hand, revealing a sequence of symbols. Her heart stopped. They weren't alien glyphs. They were derived from proto-human scripts, ancient forms of writing barely remembered on Earth. "That's not possible," she muttered, voice cracking with disbelief. She tapped the pattern with a diagnostic tool. As if responding to her touch, the monolith lit up, and a thin beam of light shot into the sky, passing through the icy ceiling like a lance. The ground trembled slightly, then stilled. The beam faded, but something had changed. The monolith projected a 3D star map into the air above it, showing a location far beyond the known human colonies, deep in the Orion Arm. Elara reached out to touch it, but the projection vanished the moment her fingers drew near. Before anyone could react, the base of the monolith split open, revealing a small, smooth disk no larger than a coin. It floated toward Elara and hovered in front of her visor. She hesitated, then took it carefully. It felt warm, vibrating slightly with energy. Back aboard the Dauntless Horizon, the science team began analyzing the disk. It contained a single data burst coordinates, star charts, and something more, a message encoded in a strange but recognizable language. It was fragmented but unmistakably Earth-based, made from the roots of early Indo-European languages, as though someone had tried to preserve a human tongue from long ago. The deeper Elara dug, the more the impossible became undeniable. This object was older than anything they had ever found, far older than any human civilization, yet it responded only to her, to human DNA. The implications clawed at the edge of her mind. If this monolith predated Earth's recorded history and it was connected to humans, then everything they knew about humanity's place in the galaxy was wrong. Earth might not be humanity's birthplace. It might be their last refuge. Thorne paced the bridge, staring at the stars through the ship's massive viewing deck. "This feels like bait," he said. "We follow the coordinates. We walk into a trap." Elara didn't argue. She felt the same tension in her chest, the same dread. But the question burned hotter. What if it was a call home? Humanity had always believed they were new to the galaxy, explorers stepping out into an old and mysterious cosmos. But now, that belief trembled. What if humans weren't the youngest species in space, but the oldest? What if they had fallen, been forgotten, and were only now waking up? That night, Elara sat alone in the observation deck, watching the stars move slowly across the window. The disk sat on the table, still humming faintly. She couldn't stop thinking about the writing, the familiar yet strange words. It was like someone had left a message for their children, long lost and finally found. Suddenly, the ship's lights flickered. The AI core stuttered, then rebooted. The disk rose into the air again, spinning slowly, casting soft blue light across the walls. A new line of text formed in midair, "Return to the cradle." Alora stood frozen. "Cradle of what?" she whispered. But she already knew the answer. Not Earth. Not Europa. Something far older. Something waiting. She tapped her comms. "Thorn, we need to go. Wherever this leads, we have to follow it." He responded quickly, already suited. "Prep the jump drive. If this is what I think it is, we won't be the only ones watching." As the dauntless horizon pulled away from Europa, the monolith pulsed once more and then went dark. Behind them, the frozen moon returned to silence, but above, in the vastness of space, something ancient had stirred, and it had seen them. The dauntless horizon emerged from faster-than-light travel near a cold, dark star system at the edge of the Orion Arm, where no human ship had ever gone before. The coordinates from the Europa monolith had led them here to an uncharted system with a single planet and a massive object in orbit. The crew stared in awe at the enormous structure ahead. It wasn't a moon or an asteroid. It was a space station, ancient and silent, slowly rotating above the dead world below. From a distance, it looked like a collapsed wheel, its metallic surface scarred and burned in places. But as the ship drew closer, the crew began to see something strange. The architecture looked oddly human. The angles, the materials, the design it all resembled the early space habitats humanity had once built centuries ago, only larger and clearly older. Dr. Ella Ramiel stood in the observation deck, her heart racing. This was no alien relic. It was human, or at least something that had once been human. Captain Thorne ordered a scan, but the station had no power signatures, no defense fields, and no response signals. It was a ghost. Alara and a small team prepared to board, unsure of what they would find. The docking process was rough locks, barely worked, and the atmosphere inside was thin but breathable. Lights flickered weakly as they stepped into the dark corridor. Dust floated in the air. Silence wrapped around them like a shroud. They walked carefully, their boots echoing off the metal floors. Symbols and signs lined the walls, and Alara recognized many of them variants of old human languages, some lost to time. Deeper inside, they found what looked like a command center. Terminals lined the walls, most broken, but one still blinked with weak power. A scientist with the team, Dr. Cade, managed to access a few files. What they found sent chills down their spines. The logs spoke of a race called the Primordials Humans, but not like the ones of today. These people had existed millions of years ago. They had explored the galaxy, built wonders, and even seeded life on new worlds. Alara read line after line, trying to make sense of it. The Primordials spoke of great wars, alliances with alien species, and a final decision to vanish to let future humanity start again without the weight of the past. It seemed, had been chosen as a cradle for rebirth. The log ended with a strange message: "Let the children grow unshaped by the sins of the fathers." Alara's mind spun. If this was true, then modern humans were not the beginning, they were a second chance. Suddenly, one of the engineers called out. They had found a sealed chamber behind a collapsed hallway. Inside were several mummified bodies, preserved by the cold and the thin air. They were human, or close to it. Taller, more symmetrical, but unmistakably of human origin. Carbon dating shocked them. All the remains were 12 million years old. Alara touched the glass of one of the chambers, her hand trembling. How could this be? How had history forgotten them? Captain Thorne stood beside her, silent. This discovery would shake everything: the history books, the governments, even the belief that humans were newcomers to the galaxy. And if the Primordials had chosen to disappear, who or what had forced their hand? The silence of the station no longer felt peaceful. It felt heavy, as if something had been watching for a long time. Then, without warning, lights flared in the control room. A recorded voice began to speak, repeating a single phrase in multiple languages, including English. The cradle has stirred. Return to Sol. The obelisk must awaken. Alara backed away, stunned. The message was not a greeting. It was a command. Before they could respond, the station trembled. Automated systems, long dormant, sparked to life. Defense turrets rose from the floors and ceiling. The AI in the station had recognized their presence and now saw them as intruders. "Run!" Thorne shouted as the first warning blasts fired above their heads. The crew sprinted through the corridors as doors slammed shut behind them. Cade was nearly caught in a pressure lock, but rolled out just in time. They barely made it back to their ship. As the docking clamps released, the turrets fired again, grazing the side of the dauntless Horizon. The ship lurched, but Thorne pushed it into full burn, and they escaped the station's range. From a safe distance, the crew watched as the station powered down once more, as if it had never awakened. In the silence of the command deck, Elora placed the coin-sized disk from Europa beside the new data logs. Everything pointed to Earth, something buried there, something older than memory. The words echoed in her mind. The obelisk must awaken. She looked at Thorne. "We have to go back." He nodded, his voice grim. "Earth needs to know. But we're not just carrying knowledge, now we're carrying proof, and someone out there won't want it seen." As the stars drifted around them, the crew felt a growing sense of unease. If the primordials had vanished, it wasn't because they wanted to, it was because they had to. And now, the long silence was ending. The dauntless Horizon returned to the solar system in silence, carrying secrets too great for any one ship to bear. Earth's leaders, already tense from rumors of the monolith on Europa, met Captain Thorne and Dr. Elora Miles in a secure orbital station. But even the most skeptical among them fell quiet when shown the preserved human remains from the ancient station and the translated messages of the primordials. Yet Elora's focus was not on politics or fear. Her mind was on the words repeated by the ancient AI, "The obelisk must awaken." Back on Earth, buried deep beneath the moon's sea of tranquility, seismic scans revealed an enormous object hidden under layers of rock and dust. Within days, a mission was launched, and Elora led the team that descended through the dark, winding tunnels drilled into the lunar crust. As they neared the final chamber, sensors began to fail, readings distorted by an unknown energy. Then, at last, they found it. The obelisk stood silently in a vast underground cavern, taller than any Earth building, shaped like a blade thrust into the stone. Its black surface shimmered faintly, covered in markings similar to those on the Europa monolith. As the team approached, the air thickened, not with pressure but with a strange sensation like standing in a memory that wasn't your own. Elora stepped forward alone, placing her hand against the surface. A wave of cold ran through her, and the obelisk lit up with a pulse of deep blue light. Slowly, it came alive. The markings began to move, shifting into patterns and then into language English, Latin, Sanskrit, and others even older. A voice echoed through the chamber, not through sound, but through thought. DNA confirmed. Lineage reconnected. Protocol initiated. The floor trembled, and the obelisk released a low hum, sending a pulse through the moon's crust. At that same moment, signals shot across the solar system from hidden points within the asteroid belt, from long-dead satellites, from relics buried on Mars and Titan. Ancient systems activated, responding to a command buried in their code for millions of years. Orbiting telescopes picked up strange energy spikes from deep space. Across the stars, something was listening. Elora stood motionless as a holographic map appeared in the air before her. It showed hundreds of ancient human colonies scattered across the galaxy, many now lost, others turned into alien worlds. Some pulsed red. Others were dark. And around them, strange symbols glowed, fleets, bases, messages left behind by a civilization that had vanished long before Earth's first city was born. Captain Thorne, watching from the control room, spoke softly. "What is this place?" Elora turned to him, her voice quiet. "It's a command post. A memory. A warning." The obelisk's voice spoke again. "The first ones have returned. The beacon is lit, awaiting response." At first, nothing happened. Then, one by one, signals began to return. Across the galaxy, old machines woke up long-forgotten satellites, massive starships hidden in deep space, dormant stations orbiting stars no one had named in millennia. Some responded with silence. Others sent cryptic messages in the ancient tongue of the primordials. The moon shook again, and deep within the obelisk's base, a hidden vault opened. Inside was a chamber filled with advanced technology weapons, medical tools, data cores. But at the center stood something even more shocking, a stasis pod. Inside was a man. He appeared to be in his 30s, but scans revealed his age over 12 million years old. Perfectly preserved, untainted by time. Elora stared in disbelief. This was a true primordial, a living member of the first human civilization. The pod hissed, steam rising as systems came online. Doctors rushed in, preparing to revive him. Minutes passed. Then his eyes opened. The man sat up slowly, looking around with calm, measured awareness. He spoke in a language long lost, but to Elora's surprise, the obelisk translated instantly. "You've awakened the protocol," he said. "The seal is broken." Elora stepped forward. "Who are you?" The man looked at her, his gaze sharp yet gentle. "I am Kalen. I was one of the last. We chose to sleep so your kind could rise free of our failures." Thorn frowned. "Why now? Why return?" Kalen's expression darkened. "Because something has noticed. Our silence is no longer safe." He pointed to the holographic map. Red means awakened. Dark means dead. But some are not sleeping. Some remember us with fear. As the obelisk continued to pulse, reports came in from across the system. Ships of unknown origin, never seen before, were approaching from the outer edges of known space. They moved with ancient stealth, silent and massive. Elora stared at Kalen. "Did your enemies survive?" Kalen nodded slowly. "Not all, but some. Some became more than enemies. They became watchers. And they are coming to erase what we were." Back on Earth, the government scrambled to respond. Panic spread, but Elora stood firm. She knew the truth now: humans were not alone, and they were not young. They were ancient, scattered, forgotten, but not broken. The obelisk's systems revealed more secrets, hidden starships buried within the asteroid belt, built by the primordials and left behind in case of emergency. Earth had been left unarmed, unburdened by war, but not undefended. Thorn prepared a scouting team to recover one of the ships, while Elora remained with Kalen, learning what she could. "We were guardians once," he told her. "Then we lost ourselves. Your people must choose: will you repeat our end, or begin a new path?" The obelisk sent out one final pulse, stronger than all before. Across the galaxy, old allies and ancient foes received it. The name Homo Primus echoed once more through alien networks and forgotten halls. Humanity had returned, not as explorers, but as descendants of the first civilization. And somewhere, in the far cold dark of space, something stirred and turned to face Earth. Above Earth, the dauntless horizon floated like a silent guardian as the moon's obelisk continued to hum with energy. On the dark side of the moon, engineers worked day and night to unlock the secrets of the buried vault's ancient machines that looked impossibly advanced, with smooth edges and glowing veins of light that shifted like flowing water. Some were weapons, others tools, but all had been left behind for one reason: to prepare humanity for the return of an ancient threat. Kalen, the awakened primordial, spent hours with Dr. Elora Miles, showing her star charts, old enemy signatures, and war records long erased from history. The enemy, he said, was not one race, but many bound together by fear of what humanity once was. These factions had formed a silent alliance after the primordials vanished, believing their great threat was gone forever. Now that the obelisks were active again, that illusion was broken. On Earth, strange signals began to interfere with communication satellites. Whole systems blinked offline for moments at a time. In deep space, one of the ancient primordial ships hidden in the asteroid belt, the Aegis Prime, was activated and flown back under escort. It was larger than any Earth ship, shaped like a blade, and powered by a core of pure quantum energy. Inside were databanks full of old battle records and AI systems that still functioned. But there was something darker too, a warning log left by one of the last commanders before the fall. It spoke of something called the silence engine, a weapon the enemy had used once, long ago, that could erase entire star systems by turning sound itself into destructive force. It had been used only once against a human colony, and the memory of its destruction had been enough to drive the primordials into hiding. Alara read the log and felt a cold weight in her chest. If the enemy still had this weapon, or something worse, then Earth was in danger far beyond anything modern science could handle. She and Thorn took the warning to Earth's leaders, but many doubted it. Then the storm arrived. Without warning, the outer system defense satellites vanished. One by one, they were snuffed out like candle flames. A fleet of unknown vessels emerged from the shadows of deep space, sleek black ships with hulls that bent light and moved without sound. They didn't attack at first. They simply watched. Probes sent to scan them were destroyed instantly, and then a message came through one single, cold sentence: return to sleep or be silenced. Panic rippled through Earth's command. Kalen stood before the leaders and spoke clearly. They do not believe you can rise again. Show them they are wrong. The primordial ship, Aegis Prime, was moved into high orbit. Its AI, ancient, calm, and immensely powerful, linked with Earth's systems and activated its old defense codes. One by one, hidden stations across the moon and Mars lit up, waking from long sleep. Humanity, it seemed, had been left gifts in more places than they knew. But time was short. The enemy fleet grew closer, crossing Neptune's orbit. Their path was clear. They were heading straight for Earth. Alara felt the weight of it all pressing down on her, the secrets of the past, the warning of the silence engine, and the unknown purpose of the obelisks. Still, she pressed forward, studying every line of ancient code Kalen gave her. Deep within the obelisk's memory, she found a clue: a second obelisk, hidden on Earth itself. Beneath Antarctica, sealed in the ice since before human history began, was another key. It was called the Heart Obelisk, and unlike the one on the moon, it was not for command, it was for awakening something older. Thorn, Alara, and a strike team were dispatched immediately. They descended into a storm-covered wasteland, drilling through ancient ice until they reached a massive chamber. There, standing in silence, was the Heart Obelisk. It pulsed weakly, as if sleeping. Alara approached it with the coin-sized disc once recovered from Europa. The moment it touched the obelisk, everything changed. The ice cracked. Light spread through the chamber, and the obelisk pulsed with life. Around them, walls shifted, revealing carvings and memories, images of the first humans crossing stars, building empires, facing destruction, and finally choosing to forget. Alara dropped to her knees as visions flooded her mind: ancient battles, lost worlds, a voice whispering across time, "Rise, children of the stars." Back in orbit, the enemy fleet finally moved. Their ships spread out, encircling Earth's defenses. Then they launched a single strike, not with weapons, but with sound. All around the globe, people heard a low hum, felt their ears pop, and watched as devices failed, as if reality itself wavered. It was a test, a taste of the silence engine. But this time, Earth answered. The Aegis Prime fired its weapons, beams of white energy slicing through the black of space. Moon-based railguns launched slugs at near-light speed. The hidden defenses of Mars and the Belt fired up, and for the first time in a million years, the children of the primordials fought back. The enemy was not prepared. They had expected fear. Instead, they found fire. Ships exploded, their dark hulls crumbling under the ancient weapons humanity had left behind. But the battle was not over. One of the enemy vessels, larger than the others, began to glow, preparing to use the silence engine at full power. Alara, still connected to the Heart Obelisk, felt it coming. She reached deeper into the obelisk's power, calling to something older than machines. The air around her shimmered, and then, from the sky above Antarctica, a beam of pure light shot into space, striking the enemy ship before it could fire. The silence engine was stopped. The obelisks had answered. The enemy fleet, shaken and scattered, began to retreat. But as they fled, one final message came through: "You have awakened the storm. We are not the last." And then they were gone, disappearing into the cold dark beyond the stars. Earth was safe for now. But Kalen looked to the heavens and spoke only one word: war. Above Earth, the silence after the battle was heavy, but it did not last long. Though the enemy fleet had fled, every system in the solar network now pulsed with data-hidden stations, obelisks, and relics had come online, each whispering fragments of a past long buried. In orbit, the Aegis Prime hovered like a sleeping giant, its AI gathering the scattered responses from across the galaxy. Kalen, the ancient primordial, stood on the bridge of the dauntless horizon beside Elora Miles and Captain Thorne, staring at a growing map of signals. Dots blinked across the galaxy, some steady, some fading, and a few blazing like stars. Each one was a human colony from the time before. Some had survived. Some had fallen. But more than that, some had evolved forgotten brothers and sisters of humanity, shaped by alien suns, old wars, and isolation. Allura could hardly believe what she saw. The legacy of the primordials was not lost. It had only been scattered. Kalen pointed to one star pulsing red. "They are calling," he said. "They remember the war. They have waited." Earth's leaders, now united by the shared truth, agreed to a bold move: reach out to the lost colonies, form an alliance, and warn them of the enemy's return. The obelisk network, once meant as a guide and defense, would serve again. But not just for protection. It would carry a new message. Humanity has returned, not as survivors, but as the inheritors of a legacy. As the repairs to the old starships progressed, scientists discovered something beneath the heart obelisk, an ancient beacon, buried deep in Earth's crust, built from materials not found anywhere else in the solar system. When activated, it sent a signal through a quantum channel, a direct message to the other obelisks spread across the stars. Within days, responses came back. Some were recordings, images of human-like beings living in strange environments. Others were live transmissions, wary but curious. Then, one message stood out. It came from a system near the galactic core, known in forgotten records as Arcasis. The message was clear: we are alive. We are strong. And we are hunted. Kalen's face darkened. The Arcasis line was the last stronghold of our kind before the silence engine was first used. If they live, they hold knowledge we lost. Thorne and Allura agreed. A mission would be launched not to fight, but to connect. They would go to Arcasis, seek out their long-lost kin, and bring them into the fold before the enemy found them. But before departure, a final discovery changed everything. Deep in the moon's obelisk system, engineers unlocked a sealed archive, a full genetic record of the original primordial line: pure, unaltered human DNA unshaped by time, war, or adaptation. Allura read through the files with wide eyes. The file included designs plans for something called the Ascendant Project. It had been the final dream of the primordials, to create a human being who could survive anything, understand everything, and lead without corruption. Not a god, but a true guardian. The project had been abandoned when the silence engine was first unleashed. Now, Kalen suggested finishing it not to create a weapon, but a symbol. A unifying force. A legacy reborn. Earth debated the ethics, the risk, the science, but in the end, the vote passed. The Ascendant would be born. Using a mix of preserved DNA, advanced memory programming, and quantum-linked knowledge, the being would be grown not as a child, but as a fully aware adult, filled with memories from across humanity's past and present. The chamber was built beneath the heart obelisk, and as energy from the awakened network flowed into it. As days passed, Allura felt the weight of what they were doing. This was more than science. It was history repeating, but this time with choice. While the Ascendant grew in the chamber, the Aegis Prime prepared for departure. Captain Thorne led the fleet, with Kalen by his side. Allura remained on Earth, watching the Ascendant take form. On the 10th day, the chamber lights dimmed, and the pod opened. A figure stepped out tall, calm, with eyes that shimmered like stars. He looked at Alara, then spoke the first words of his life. I remember. Everything. His name was chosen not by scientists or governments, but by the obelisk network itself. It called him Solon the Lightbearer. Solon learned fast. He understood ancient languages, predicted ship movements, and calmed leaders with just a few words. But he was not a ruler. He called himself a guide. His purpose was to unite, not to command. Under his direction, Earth broadcast a single message to the galaxy. We are the children of the stars. We remember who we are. And we stand together. Across distant systems, colonies responded. Some cheered. Some warned of attacks already happening. And some simply vanished. The enemy had heard too. The Silence Fleet, once scattered, had begun to reform. They were no longer just shadows. They were coming. But this time, humanity would not wait in fear. Solon stood before the great fleet above Earth, surrounded by allies, Kalen, Thorn, Elara, and thousands of others old humans, new humans, beings shaped by time and hope. And for the first time in 12 million years, the stars echoed with the unified voice of mankind. A storm was coming, but so was the dawn. And as Solon lifted his hand to the stars, the obelisks across the galaxy lit up one by one, their beams cutting through the dark. Humanity's legacy had not died. It had ascended.